I was closing the pool at my apartment complex when a man I'd never seen climbed out of the deep end fully clothed and asked what year it was. I'd been the night maintenance guy at Willow Creek Apartments for 3 years. Closing the pool at 10 p.m. was routine. Check the chemical levels, skim the surface, lock the gate. That night, I was finishing up when I heard splashing from the deep end. I spun around and watched a man pull himself up the ladder. Dress shirt, slacks, leather shoes, completely soaked. He stood there dripping on the concrete, looking around like he'd just woken up somewhere he didn't recognize. Then he looked at me and asked the strangest question I'd ever heard. What year is it? I thought he was drunk or high. 2024, I said slowly. The man's face went pale. He grabbed the pool fence like his legs might give out. No, that's not possible. I was just there. I stepped closer. Sir, are you okay? Do you need me to call someone? He looked at his hands, turned them over, touched his own face like he was checking if it was real. My name is David Callahan. I live in Unit 312. I've lived there for 6 years. That's when my stomach dropped. I knew Unit 312. It had been vacant for 8 months. The previous tenant had disappeared. I remembered when it happened. The whole complex talked about it for weeks. David Callahan, mid-30s, software engineer, kept to himself. One morning his car was still in the lot, but he never showed up for work, never answered his door. Management eventually did a welfare check and found the apartment empty. No signs of struggle, no note. His wallet, keys, and phone were sitting on the kitchen counter, like he'd stepped out for a second and never came back. Police investigated for months. His face was on the news. His family flew in from Ohio and put up flyers everywhere. But David Callahan was gone, vanished without a trace. And now he was standing in front of me, dripping pool water, wearing the same clothes described in the missing persons report. I pulled out my phone. I need to call the police. Wait, he grabbed my arm. His grip was ice cold. Please, I don't understand what's happening. The last thing I remember is walking home from the parking garage. It was October 2023. Someone behind me said my name. Then nothing. Then I was underwater. I called 911, told them I found a man who might be a missing person. They said units were on the way. While we waited, I gave David a towel from the pool shed, and he sat on a lounge chair, staring at nothing. He kept mumbling dates under his breath, doing math in his head. 14 months? I've been gone 14 months? He looked up at me. My mom, is she okay? I didn't know how to answer that. I'd seen his mother on the news, crying at a press conference, begging anyone with information to come forward. I'm sure she's fine, I said. He nodded, but I don't think he believed me. Then he asked something that made my skin crawl. The parking garage. Was there a white van? I don't know. Why? Because I remember now. There was someone waiting there, not just behind me, waiting for me. They knew my name. They knew what time I got home from work. He touched the back of his head and winced. They hit me with something. I didn't even see their face. The police arrived in 8 minutes. 2 officers, then 2 more, then detectives. They separated us immediately. I gave my statement 4 times. Every detail. The splash, the question, the soaked clothes. They kept asking if I'd seen anyone else near the pool. I hadn't. Through the fence, I watched them examine David. A paramedic checked his vitals and shined a light in his eyes. Someone photographed his clothes. His shoes were brand new, but the leather was cracked like they'd aged years and hours. The detectives talked in low voices, looking back at David with expressions I couldn't read. One of them made a phone call, and I heard him say the words notify the family. Around midnight, an unmarked car pulled up, and a woman got out. She was older, maybe 60, and she walked toward the pool with her hand over her mouth. David stood up, and she stopped 10 feet away, just staring at him like she was seeing a ghost. David? Her voice broke on the word. Mom. He said it so quietly I almost missed it. She collapsed into him, and they both fell to their knees, holding each other on the wet concrete while everyone watched in silence. The investigation took months. David had no memory of where he'd been for 14 months. Medical tests showed signs of prolonged sedation, malnutrition, and injuries that had healed without proper treatment. Police traced the white van to a property 200 miles away. They found a basement. They found restraints. They found evidence of at least 6 other victims. 3 were recovered alive. 2 were identified through remains. The man responsible was a maintenance worker at David's office building. He'd been watching David for months, learning his patterns, waiting for the perfect moment. When they arrested him, he asked the detectives the same thing he'd asked all his victims. Want to see my collection? David spent weeks in the hospital and months in therapy. His apartment sat empty, but the complex held it for him. The day he moved back in, I helped him carry boxes. He stopped at his door, key in hand, and just stood there for a long moment. Thank you, he said, for believing me that night. I didn't know what to say, so I just nodded.